Hey y'all, happy Thursday. All right, so we're going to start today, and I want to read some from the book of Hebrews, and it's Hebrews chapter 9 and verse 12. And I'm reading from the Amplified Classic Version. I forget to say that sometimes, and I don't want to confuse as what I'm reading from, but I'm in Hebrews 9:12, and it says, "He went once and for all into the Holy of Holies of heaven, not by virtue of blood and goats, the blood of goats and calves, by which to make reconciliation between God and man, but his own blood, having found and secured a complete redemption and everlasting release for us." I'm going to read that again. He went once for all into the Holy of Holies of heaven, not by virtue of the blood of goats and calves, but by which to make reconciliation between God and man, but his own blood, having found and secured a complete redemption and an everlasting release for us. Glory to God. So I think it's interesting that we just read, this was last week, or week before, we just read from Rick Renner's book about the slave market that the world was in when Jesus came on the scene. And now we read about that Jesus secured a complete redemption and an everlasting release. And if you haven't heard that one where we read from Rick, you need to go back and listen to it. It might have been 2 weeks ago, but it was so powerful, and the visual imagery that Paul was talking about, and that's where the Greek, just when you dive into the original Greek, the layers that it unlocks is just incredible. And that was 2 weeks ago. But anyway, so we read that when Jesus comes on the scene, the world is as a slave market, that we, mankind, are slaves to be sold. I mean, we're slaves in bondage to Satan. But Jesus secured complete redemption and an everlasting release. And I connected the things this way, that the belt of truth is that Jesus has set us free from sin. And the breastplate of righteousness is that he has returned us to right standing with God. The truth is that he has set us free from sin. He has paid the debt and secured an everlasting release from us. We are no longer slaves to sin. And then when we put that breastplate on, when we put on his righteousness, he has returned us to right standing with God. Well, I say returned because we were at one time in right standing with God. That God created mankind to be in right standing. When he put man in the Garden of Eden, we were in right standing with God. And so Jesus returned us to right standing with God. These books, Uncommon Girl, were written as Bible studies for teenagers, but there is so much foundational in here that it's good for me to go back and read. So this particular one, Learning to Live Free, is a study on Galatians 2:20. But in this, we talk about the sacrifice. And so I do want to read from part of this, and we'll probably have to finish it up tomorrow. But so here we go. Jesus gave himself for me. Jesus gave himself for you. And of course, we're talking about Jesus giving himself as a final sacrifice for sin, once and once for all, just like we just read from Hebrews. So it's important that we understand what a sacrifice is and what the significance of Jesus' sacrifice is. So if we're talking about definitions, a sacrifice is defined as, now this, get this, we'll end here for today. But a sacrifice is defined as the destruction or surrender of something for the sake of something else. The destruction or surrender of one thing for the sake of another. Oh, that's good. So we'll pick up here tomorrow. I'll see you then. Bye, y'all.